Okay, welcome everyone to Woo Woo Mommas PODCAST. This is Kolein and I'm here with Gina. And
Hello.
hi, and we are here with Natasha Sol, who's someone I know personally and have for a few years now, right? I think since 2020. Natasha is a deeply connected being, deeply spiritual being. She's actually someone that I've gone to for healing. And we want to share her and share what she does and who she is with all of you. So I am going to read her bio if I can jump out, and hopefully I'm not going to. Okay, I think we're still recording. Yep, we are. All this technical stuff here. Okay. So, okay. Natasha is an energy alchemist, a cosmic oracle, and New Earth ambassador. She's been in practice working with various modalities of energy medicine for 15 years. She is a certified Reiki master, a Theta healing practitioner, and a psychic medium. She also works actively as a paranormal investigator with Big River Paranormal in Boise, Idaho. With multiple lifetimes of experience in working with what has been considered forbidden magic, Natasha offers a unique blend of divine light sourced, Christ christened consciousness energy therapy that must be experienced to fully understand. And we will put Natasha's info attached in the description down below so that you can reach out to her. I can speak from personal experience. I did a Theta healing session with her remote. She does work remotely. And that was a beautiful experience. It was very holistic. I felt that she tapped into some pieces of me that I wasn't really clear about or aware of. And so we can just start there.
Thank you so much, ladies, for having me. I'm so excited and just thrilled to be here to make this connection with you both. And as Kolein mentioned, we've known each other for a few years now. Our friendship was probably one of the fewest that lasted through the pandemic. So that's a plus. And I'm so thrilled to meet Gina and make her acquaintance through Kolein. And
yes, it's so nice to meet you tonight. Finally, I hear your name. Kolein has spoken highly of you on many occasions. And I mean, obviously, I got a lot of questions based on.
Well, I love questions, so bring it,
Yes.
girlfriend. I love it. And yeah, I'm excited to be here and see what unfolds in today's podcast.
Yep. So can I ask the first question?
Absolutely. Absolutely.
I would love to know, what exactly is a Theta healing?
Oh, brilliant question. So Theta healing was intuited. It was channeled through a lovely woman, and I'm not going to attempt to pronounce her name because I'm afraid it'll butcher it, but I'll make sure that Kolein gets the information. But she was battling cancer at the time, and as a healer, she went into prayer and asked Creator, like, how do I overcome this? And she was downloaded this information that was called Theta healing. And basically what it is you're working with the energy field in the body, but you're tapping into the theta brainwave of the mind, which is really awesome because the theta brainwave is associated with the subconscious. So I consider the subconscious like the man behind the green curtain in The Wizard of Oz. He's like pulling all the gears and pushing all the buttons. And, he's like the driving force, or she, the driving force behind our conscious decisions and our choices. So we may have patterns of thought forms that we're totally unaware of that our subconscious is driving through our conscious mind, telling us to go left when we really want to go right, telling us to go out with that person when we really shouldn't,
Yeah.
like investing in that property when it's a money pit, those kind of things. And so with theta healing, we're able to go into that subconscious realm, tap into the information that may be working on the subconscious or the unconscious, where the subconscious isn't even aware of it. And this can come up as behavioral patterns, thought forms, ancestral trauma. Yeah, we actually we make choices based on our ancestral trauma that's in our DNA, that's in our genetic field. And yeah, talk about, that's pretty.
It's interesting because
use that bomb, but
as
I'll censor myself.
As someone, obviously I'm familiar with energy healing. There's so many different styles of energy healing. There's, quantum energy. There's, this theta. There's so many different ways. But it seems like the common denominator is tapping into something deeper within us. Like it's almost like you have this place that you're trying to get, and there's all different roads to get there, because even in life, there's not one way to get to Buffalo. You can pick a few different ways, right? So it seems like I find it interesting that the basis behind most of the healing for energy healing is to really go deep to where the root of the problem is, and it's usually a spiritual thing. Okay.
Emotional thing. It can be an emotional thing too. Or
emotional. Yes.
A trauma, and we have this fear, around experiencing that trauma again. And so, yeah, it can be on the spiritual, emotional level, and it's, like Kolein said earlier, off camera, that are off the recording, that it's usually the last place we visit when we're addressing a physical ailment or dis-ease, when it actually should be the first place, because that's usually where it's rooted. And so when we bring that awareness of the root cause of an illness, half the work is acknowledgement. Half of the work is bringing it to the conscious mind.
Right.
And just being aware of it. And then we can move from that place and adjust the behavioral patterns, implement any sort of reprograms that happen within the energy field, assisting the removal of any sort of energy attachments, implants, contracts, entities that may be using that trauma or wound, or just a weak place in the energy field to manipulate. So we're able to do that, and then the physical body follows suit. The subconscious starts to take that new program, starts to direct the conscious mind to an optimal well-being, and then the physical body follows suit. Symptoms in the physical body are usually the last thing to surface in a physical illness, or in an illness in general.
Right.
Physical symptoms, and I say that again, physical symptoms are usually the last to surface in an illness. It usually begins with a trauma, the emotional energy around that trauma, and the programming that's associated with that trauma. Then it expands into the emotional body, and then it expands into the physical body.
Yes.
So our tendency is to go direct to the physical ailment because we're in discomfort, right? We want to quell that pain or that discomfort.
Yeah.
But if we go right to the root, then it ripples out. Anyway, I hope that answers your question.
It's so beautiful.
No, it does.
And this is so wonderful for people to understand if they're new to this, right? So what you said, the physical is the last piece. So there's a whole story going on, right?
Mm-hmm.
Before, okay. And so with the theta, do you I know you go to the root, but do you find sort of that story? Do you reveal that story?
Sometimes when it's important for the client to know, there may be pieces of information that come through the story, whether it's a past life or something that they experienced in their childhood or an ancestral trauma or something in their Akashic records where their soul signed off on a contract to have the experience in this lifetime in order to glean information. And they've completed their mission, they've completed their contract, but it's just a matter of like, okay, let's mark that completed on the Akashic records so that their soul is like, it's done. And then they can move from there into that higher state of consciousness and well-being.
So do you clear those things for them?
It depends on what it is. Yeah, most often there's clearing, there's healing, there's clarification. There's a lot of clarification that can come through. There's dissolution in terms of dissolving a contract. There is removal of energy implants or attachments or wayward energies that we send to Creator's light. We don't want to remove something out of someone's frame and just kind of leave it out, on the street like garbage.
Yeah.
We want to make sure that it goes to Creator's light to be processed, so that it's not attaching its energy to someone else who may have a weakness within their field, a propensity to attract the same sort of energy. Of course, I'm talking about like a dark negative energy that feeds off of our energy field, which is nothing to be afraid of, by the way.
I was just going to ask you about that because I do know somebody that removes entities, and I'm always confused on that terminology of entity, because when I think of an entity, I always think of like kind of dark and satanic, and it's just that it's not a vibe I like at all. Like it's just something that I don't want to get entangled in. But can you shed a different light maybe on an entity? Is it just like maybe not evil, but just a darkness that's bringing somebody down? Is that?
Yeah, absolutely. I'm happy to clarify. So the way I sense and see dark entities is it's a lower vibrational form of energy. And not to get into religion or anything, but something that is seen as evil. There are entities that most often entities are just they're attaching themselves to a person's energy field where they have an opening in their field caused by an emotional wounding, a trauma, whatever, a thought pattern, a belief structure. The entity is coming in to kind of suck off their energy, off their energy field, their life force. They're there to create chaos in that person's life. You see this most often with alcohol and drug addicts.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, the alcohol is called spirits for a reason.
Yeah, I say.
So yeah, you see that most often with people who are dealing with that. But yeah, it comes in to like feed off of that person's energy field. There are entities that are directed from a higher source of dark energy. Okay, there's like levels. I see levels in terms of hierarchy. Okay, of dark energy, and there are what people would label as demons that are commanding other lower on the hierarchy level dark energies to go do their bidding, to create chaos, because it creates loosh. Loosh is a form of energy created by fear and chaos.
Yes.
And that's the energy that they can feed on. And this is
Okay.
where that spiritual warfare
So
comes in.
this is where,
Yeah,
yes, this is where,
that's
yeah, like you're attracting that kind of stuff too, like because
Yeah.
you're
Usually
you're like, it's like the sugar, right? Like
right,
something to feed
exactly.
off of. Yeah. Okay.
Exactly. And, you know, they're usually unconscious to it, but it's like, why does this keep happening to me?
yes.
Yeah.
Why do I keep attracting, you know, these sorts of scenarios? It's because there is an entity that is found its way into the field of that person and is like giving them little impulses, little you know, like we hear about that little devil sitting on the
Yeah.
shoulder and like
Yeah.
saying, and especially again, especially if someone's under the influence of
Yes.
a drug or alcohol,
Yeah.
you know, those voices can be much louder
Yes.
because they've opened up their field to them, and so they can be much louder, and then their subconscious listens, and their subconscious is like, do this, you
Yeah.
know, and then their conscious follows suit. So yeah,
So
that's
you don't like, you don't see anything, right? This is just an energy that the person has, or do you
well,
see something?
people can I'm kind of I'm more clairsentient,
Mhm.
but my second skill is clairvoyance. I can see them through my clairvoyancy. And yes, people have seen them. I've had clients where people have actually seen a dark
Okay.
form in their bedroom, in their home.
Yeah.
Yeah. So they've had visuals. Um, yeah. So it can come in the form. People can see them.
Okay.
Um, I used to see them as a child. I would see them like if you see something dark like a shadow pass in your peripheral vision,
Hmm.
that's usually an indication you just saw a dark entity.
Mhm.
Yeah.
So every once in a while I can, but I usually look through my clairvoyancy because it's just it's more accurate.
Mhm.
Okay.
I want to stop here though. I want to make a very clear distinction between, if I may,
Yeah.
a clear distinction between dark entities and ghosts.
Okay.
Oh,
Because
yes.
people often associate dark entities with ghosts.
Yes.
Ghosts are deceased people that haven't fully crossed over. They're caught in this realm between, on the other side of the veil,
Yes.
between being in the light and being in the physical form. And they're usually lost. They're usually very confused or angry. And this is where a lot of people associate dark entities with ghosts, like a poltergeist.
Yes.
Okay.
Poltergeist is so angry with, they don't understand what has happened. And I mean, come on, imagine you're stuck in a place for years and years and years, and you're not able to get any sort of explanation. And people
Right.
may even be kind of poking fun at you to get
Right.
you to respond, you know. And so people are like, oh, that's a demon or that's a dark entity. It's like, no, it's actually a person who's just very angry and frustrated and lost,
Yeah.
and they're just needing some validation
Yeah.
Hmm.
in what they went through and acknowledgement of their trauma, and just holding that space of unconditional love for them,
Yes.
and then assisting them if they, and they usually are. I've never met a ghost who didn't want to cross over.
Right.
Like, once you
So
show
let,
them where they want to go or
Yes.
where they need to go, they go. They're
They do.
like, oh, okay.
let
They
me ask you
You
this then.
they
Is
know.
it
they
possible for, okay, so like some ghosts, they don't cross over. Is it possible for them to have fully crossed over, but come back for visitations? Because like if it's not like a ghost that dwells in a home or something, but you have like a visitation from a loved one and they come and they're in your visual field. What's the difference, or is that something completely different?
yeah. So I wouldn't call that a ghost. I would call that, personally, I would call that, and I don't want to like mince words here, but
Yeah.
this is how it helps me keep it straight, that that's more like a spirit. That is a spirit
Yeah.
from the expression
Yes.
of that soul as that person.
That makes sense. That makes
And
sense
they're
to me.
coming
Okay.
to engage in conversation, and it's not that they're stuck in between realms. They're just coming back to that place where they can communicate with that loved one.
Yes.
Okay.
And it's usually, you know, the distinction between the two is usually a spirit is there to offer solace
Yes.
and love to their,
Yeah.
like they're trying to soothe their loved one for the loss.
Okay.
They come from a place of love, whereas a ghost is more like, ah, get me out of here. It's like
Yeah.
frustration and like sadness. Sometimes they feel sad because they're stuck where they are.
Yeah.
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 Okay. That's a good way to
It's perfect. I love it.
differentiate each one. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, and
Thank you.
it makes perfect sense when you hear it so succinctly.
Yes. Yes.
Yeah, that's beautiful. Thank you. And
Yeah.
you know, and the wonderful thing about the spirit, right? It's so omnipotent that you know, the spirit of someone that we love could come to me in my dreams, could also go to my brother, and also, you know, it's this beautiful,
Absolutely.
like flexible.
Yeah, they're not in one place like a ghost would be.
Yeah.
Right.
Okay.
Thanks for clarifying, Kolein. Absolutely.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah. Yeah.
So how long have you always had these spiritual gifts, even like when you were younger? Is this something, because I think you said you've been doing your work for 15 years.
Yeah, professionally for 15 years.
Okay. But it's always been a part of your, like a certain aspect of it has always been a part of your life, correct?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like I mentioned, as a child, I would see ghosts. I would actually see them with my physical sight.
Yeah.
I grew up like engaging with ghosts. I grew up in the latter part of my childhood, grew up in my grandparents' home, whose home was built on an old plantation site where the slave
Oh,
dwellings were.
wow.
So there's a history there. And right across the street, well, across our driveway was where the slave church was. And across the street,
Wow.
still there during my childhood, was the cemetery, the slave cemetery. And so there was paranormal activity going
A lot
on
of activity
all the
there.
time through my childhood. And I would go to the cemetery and I would talk with the ghosts. I would talk with them.
Wow.
And, you know, thought everybody does this. I grew up in a very spiritual home that acknowledged spirits, maybe not so much ghosts, but they acknowledged spirits, you know. They acknowledged that there was life on the other side of the veil. And so I grew up with this belief that everybody experiences seeing and talking, engaging with ghosts. And it was, you know, as I became a teenager that I realized that not everybody does this.
Yeah, it's
So I started to hide it.
not commonplace for everybody.
Yeah, I know. So I started to hide it, and throughout most of my young adult life, I just kept it under wraps. But it got to the point, I mean, it still emanated from me. You know, I would be like, "Oh, did you see that?" Or, "Oh, did you smell that?" You know, and they, what are you talking about? You know, or I would like ask someone a question that was considered rude. It was only because I was reading their energy and it was so obvious energetically. And I'd just be like, "Are you pregnant?" You know, and they'd be like, you know, so offended. And I'd just be, "Oh, I'm sorry." You know, just because I could see in their field that they were pregnant or whatever. But yeah, so I
Wow.
just kept it under wraps. My church, I grew up, as I said, I grew up in a spiritual home, a Christian home. And at the age of 10, the elders of my church had me going up to pray for healing. Like they saw that gift in me and had me going up with the elders to pray for healing for people. So I've pretty much been doing this most of my life,
Wow.
discreetly in the early stages.
Yeah. So when was the shift? because we all can relate. Gina and I can relate. You know, there's this sort of gap. It's like when we're young, it's okay. It's kind of cute. She knows something. And then we peer pressure or whatever it is. I was the fun one at the party because I would do the psychic, writing because I'm an automatic writer. And and I would do the same thing. I'd like somebody would walk in the room and be like, oh my gosh, you broke up with your boyfriend. And she's like, oh, how would you know? And then we sort of put the lid on it, right? For a while.
I'll tell you what, I'm going to tell you what lid was on mine. Because like I always had these connections, but I never really made it a part of my life or who I was. Cause it's always your imagination and stuff. So growing up, me and my sister shared a bedroom, and I had a statue. We grew up Roman Catholic, and I had a statue of oh gosh, what was it called? The Infant of Prague. And he was on our dresser. And I used to wake up. It only happened on the weekends, but every time I would wake up, I would be staring at it and it would move. I mean, move forward, it would tilt its head, it would move backwards. And I'm like, and I think I mentioned it to my mom once. I said, Mom, that statue in our bedroom moves. And, she's like, oh, that's probably just your eyes playing tricks on you. And so I just used to watch it on the weekends, and I'm like, oh, I'm wide awake and that thing's moving. So now fast forward 30 some odd years, my sister was up in my house, and we were having, we're sitting down having some tea, and somehow we got talking about sharing a bedroom, and she looked at me and she goes, do you remember that statue that was on our dresser? I said, I do. And she said, okay, she's like, I've never told anyone, but I know you're like, I'm the trusted one, with this kind of information.
Oh, of course, right.
She's like, Gina, I swear to God, that thing, she goes, I used to see it move all the time. And I almost fell out of my chair when she said that, because like we both held this deep, dark secret in for all these years. And 30 some odd years later, it comes out. She used to see it move all the time. And without telling her what I thought, I said, what did it do? And she, exactly what I said. She's like, I don't know. It would like shuffle its feet. It would move forward, tilt its head.
Wow. So, very cool. Very cool.
So how would you explain that, Natasha? Like what
well, that's what I was about to inquire about, if it was an antique. A lot of times with objects, especially antique objects, where a lot of energy imprints, we have our own energy signature, and something that's been passed down through generations, that energy signature can leave an imprint. And especially if that person, if one of the people with that object was like, that was their go-to object, it was a valued possession for them, they can leave a really strong imprint on that object to where it feels like it's haunted.
Whoa.
And you see
and
this.
That's the thing. I never, because I was young and I never looked at it like that. And it's not that it wasn't valued. It was just the Infant of Prague statue. Like every Italian household has one. And I grew up, like, it was just commonplace that everyone has one of those. Well, at least if you're Italian, we have one in your house. But it never freaked me out. I was intrigued with it.
It wasn't meant there. It wasn't meant to harm and it didn't have like this energy from another person. Without really dropping into the field, what I would say in that specific case is, you said every Italian house has one. Like, it represents like Italian, the culture, the history, family, that's what it represents. So
and faith too. It definitely is like a big representation of faith.
Yeah, and so it's like it has this culmination of this energy from multiple families of generation after generation, putting that sort of faith into this symbol. And so it makes sense that it would, as a child, we don't have as many filters
on
our psychic skills. And so, yeah, it makes sense that you and your sister would see it animated because it's just animation through that energy that is collectively being aimed at it, you know?
Yeah.
So it makes a lot of sense
Yeah.
to me anyway.
Cool. Yeah, to us, right? Yeah. And how cool that your sister finally shared that with you, right?
Yeah. Well,
it's
I'm the safe
beautiful.
person now because, I'm the one that
You're the woo
they
woo.
all know, my brother, he gets freaked out by my stories, but they know who to run to when they've got something cool to share.
Unexplainable.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Totally.
So, yeah.
Wow.
So you two go I don't know, not ghost hunts, investigations,
Paranormal. Yeah.
Mhm.
paranormal
Mhm.
investigations. Let's talk about
Yeah.
that.
No, this is one of my favorite topics. I love, love, love doing, like I said, I've been interacting with ghosts all of my life, and I finally found an avenue in which to where I can be of service to them. Because,
Mm,
I mean, they're just people. They're
yeah.
just people without a body. And so it's another form of service that I'm really passionate about. And I just recently joined this beautiful team. They're in Boise. It's an umbrella of teams in Boise, Portland, and in East Oregon. And I think there's other teams under that umbrella in other parts of the nation. And they're all scientific, brilliant scientific minds, and they just go in to like determine whether or not there is actual paranormal activity. So I really enjoy kind of pulling that into, my field of the psychic part, and sort of like just balancing that out with the scientific application.
Yeah.
And it's just been lots of fun. Um, but yeah, what I'm most passionate about is, like I said, assisting these lost souls to the other side.
Mm-hmm.
They for whatever reason, they're caught in their trauma or anger.
Mm-hmm.
um,
Yep.
and I get a lot of joy from assisting them to that.
Because that's, to me, that sounds like an extension of healing.
Oh, totally.
You're healing
Totally.
a spirit
Yeah.
and in other form. So
Yeah. Yeah,
that's
the
really cool.
paranormal investigations that usually they're there to like, bridge that gap between the physical and the non-physical with
Yeah.
scientific documentation. I take it a step beyond that, and I'm like, okay, let's make sure that there really is a ghost here. Let's find out their story and let's assist them. So
Wow.
I guess paranormal, like some people would see me as a bad guy. Because someone who looks to that as a source of entertainment, because I don't see it as a source of entertainment.
Oh, right.
I see
Right.
it as like I'm assisting someone, just
This
like
is
I
a
would.
job to
Yeah,
you. Yeah.
yeah. It's a
Yeah.
service to humanity in a different form.
Yeah.
So I'm there to like assist them to the other side and like so that there aren't any more hauntings.
Right.
So are you like working with a team of people? Is
Yeah.
that so?
Mhm.
And are you going
That's
like
so cool.
somebody calling them up and saying, "Hey, listen, I think we might have something here in our house or in
Yeah.
our building. Can you
Yeah.
help us?" And then you go in and so let me ask you because I also speak to, the other side. I also see, ghosts for lack of a better expression. Um, do you hear, see with your eyes, hear with your ears, or is it telepathically? Like, well, how would you describe the communication part?
It's
It's
all of
all.
that. Yeah. I typically, um, because I'm clairsentient,
Yeah,
that's the first indication that there's a presence.
yeah.
Mhm.
And then that usually comes in the form of I may see it clairvoyantly, I've only seen an actual apparition with my physical eyes just a few times in my life. It usually doesn't manifest. It usually manifests as sound in the physical form, like an audio sound. The other way that I read it is through muscle testing. I use muscle
Oh, wow.
testing. I just recently, I went to a friend's house. I was doing an energy clearing in her space, went in her bathroom. She lives in an old house, and I'll try to keep this really brief. Flipped on the bathroom light, and we know that there's a Native American presence on the property where her home is. It's a barn that was built many, many decades ago that they converted into a little like mother-in-law unit, and turned on the bathroom light, and the light starts to flicker, and that's a telltale sign that you're dealing with a paranormal activity, because it's very easy for ghosts to manipulate energy. It's easier for them to do that than to materialize as an apparition or even speak, because that is like coming into the physical, where they can tap into the energy through electricity. So flickering lights is a telltale sign. So I'm like, that's odd. So I go out and I was like, what's up with your light? And she's like, oh, it's a faulty wire. This is an old house, blah, blah, blah. So I was like, okay, it just won't come on. So anyway, I go back later and I announce to her, okay, well, I'm just going to go to the bathroom, and then I'm going to take off, go into the bathroom. And before the initial encounter was the light was being really sporadic. There really wasn't any sort of method to it. It was just kind of flickering, like on and off sporadically. When I go in, after I announce, I'm leaving now, the light is like, dun, 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 dun. It's like flickering like crazy on and off. And I'm like, is this a ghost? Are you a ghost? So I like go out and I asked my friend, I was like, I think you have a ghost in your bathroom. And she's like, no, it's a faulty wire, blah, blah, blah. I just won't come on. I'm like, no, the light's flickering. Go back in the bathroom. I turn on the light. Sure enough, the light is flickering. She's like standing there, her mouth dropped open in disbelief. And I'm like, yeah, this is a ghost. So we start muscle testing. And every question that was affirmative in the muscle test that because we were both muscle testing to make sure we were getting an accurate reading. Every time we got a yes, we got a confirmation with the light. The light would come on.
Wow.
So it was just like, yeah.
Yeah.
Like that's wonderful confirmation when you're like muscle testing, as well as like, with the scientific evidence, with the certain kind of millimeters and monitoring temperature drops, as well as EMFs and stuff like that. It's just very validating.
Wow.
That's so amazing, because I remember the first time, and I think I told you both this story. The first time my husband got us a Mac, it was a strawberry Macintosh computer. Do you remember those? They were like blueberries, strawberries, these big, like fat things, And he brought us home and he's like, I got you a computer, honey. And now you can, was like, I don't even know if we called it the internet. I think it was like the World Wide Web or something. And I turned it. What'd you say?
I forgot about that term, the World Wide Web.
And I turned it on, and he was like showing, it was the AOL, you've got mail. And I turned it on, and we opened it up to, I don't remember what. And I could see it was a portal.
Absolutely.
It.
Wow.
I was like, oh my gosh, hon, this is a portal. He was just like,
what are you talking about?
and still to this day, I mean, and the same thing with the phones. And so sort of to dovetail off of what you're talking about, the electricity, it's so interesting that the spiritual realm taps into that. And it can also be darkness too. It's not just only light.
Right.
And,
Right.
when you see, that addictive kind of, alcoholism, but with somebody on their phone, right? It's like part of that, can be that, where they're usually younger
Can't
kids,
detach.
they're just attached to it, get away from it, and it's just sort of pulling them in. And I'm not even touching on like the information that they're looking at, but it's an interesting device, right? We have these interesting devices now. My grandmother used to say it about the telephone. When the telephone
Oh, wow.
was hanging on the wall, when we had the cord, we used to wrap around our fingers. She would say, gotta be careful, don't be on that too long, because you don't know what else is going to come through. My Hungarian
Oh
grandma,
my
yeah,
gosh.
she was really
She
woo-woo.
was onto something.
Oh, that's awesome.
So
She was watching out for you.
she was, and I would be like, oh, okay, I gotta go, and I get off the phone. But so interesting that the spirit realm can tap into that. And
Yeah.
what I'd like to know is, can we utilize it, in a beneficial way, right? Because I know that there's even some healing modalities that use electricity and vibration and frequency and all of that. And it's like, I haven't really tapped into that personally. I mean, I think the closest I come to is maybe the foot bath, because there's some electric device in that. But I don't know. I mean, do you work with any of those, components or anything like that?
In terms of the internet or electricity specifically?
Just any kind of healing devices that
Oh, yeah. Not so much electric devices, but I do work with sound. I work with tuning forks a lot to help optimize the energy flow. Like if I'm seeing an energy block around a certain area within a client's body.
Oh,
I also work with the chakras. So I may be addressing the chakra, but I see a blocked flow from the chakra. And so I'll use a tuning fork to that meridian that's associated with in that area of the chakra to help open that flow, or using a specific hertz frequency to bring. I use this a lot. The 172 hertz frequency is the dominant frequency of nature. And so actually if you get really quiet, if you go out in nature away from like traffic noise and people noise, and you get really quiet and you just listen very deliberately, you can actually hear that frequency. I've learned what it sounds like. I wish I had my tuning fork here with me. I would play it for you guys, but you can actually hear that hum of that frequency when you're out in nature. But what it does is it resets our energy frame, because we're organic beings.
I love listening to I love listening to hertz frequencies. Sometimes I'll just put my earbuds on and I pick one based on what I feel that I need for that moment or that day. And I'll do housework with it. And it just, I don't know, it does do something to you. Just for me, it's very, very relaxing.
Totally.
So I love listening to those different frequencies.
Totally.
I
Yeah.
do know what you mean, Natasha, because when we used to take the boys camping when they were little, we would be way out, up in the mountains, way you couldn't even, the sky would be black, unless the moon was out. And I do remember I would hear it, but I would also feel it like a vibration.
Totally.
And I would put my, depending on what type of weather it was, I would put my hands or my feet on the ground, and because I wanted to literally feel it. I mean, this was before earthing became this, very popular, which I think is wonderful, but it was like it was humming.
Yeah, exactly. That's exactly it.
Yeah.
And what I found is that because of we're so saturated with technology that throws us off of that natural frequency. I
Mm,
mean, used to, we just naturally aligned with it, but now we're constantly bombarded with, Wi-Fi, 5G now.
Yes.
It's just becoming more and more. And so what I'm seeing more often than years prior is that people are like way out of alignment in terms of that natural frequency. And so I'm using the tuning fork to help establish that frequency back in their field so that we can do the work that needs to happen for them.
do you
So
feel that grounding would, I'm sorry, Colleen, go ahead.
go ahead.
Do you feel that grounding will give the same effect, just to like ground yourself to,
Absolutely.
Yeah,
Absolutely. If
'cause
done with intention, we're moving into this age where we're already becoming aware of it with the rise in consciousness, but we're coming into this age where intention, we've
Yes.
been so
so
distracted
powerful.
and
Hmm.
programmed away from intention because it is so powerful.
Yes.
Yep.
And so intention, going out with the intention of setting the intention of, I'm going out to realign my frequency in whatever form,
Yep.
that I resonate with, whether it's grounding. I do a practice that's called energy packing, where you're just packing your field with
Mm,
Earth's energy
wow.
from
Really?
head to toe, all like you're packing in your entire energy field with Earth's frequency. You
Wow.
may sit on the ground, have your feet barefooted, and I do this at any time of the year. I've
Yep.
been known to put my feet on the snow, and I'm just like, it's just for a little bit, a few breaths, and it works wonders for people like us who do energy work, for
Yeah,
sure.
I love doing grounding. Because I I actually was working with a client the other day, and they had expressed that they're really really connect with nature, and they're doing
Mhm.
more meditation. I'm trying to
Mhm.
guide them in a certain way with certain meditation, and I said, have you ever meditated outside? And they're like, no. And I said, well, the weather is nice. I says, and you can even do it when it's not so nice. I said, get a blanket if it's early in the morning. And I says, take your shoes off, you put your feet on the ground, and you do a guided meditation outside. I Some of my best, most powerful meditations have been done that way. Like, it is such a
Absolutely.
connection.
Mhm.
Hmm.
Absolutely. And especially if I love that you offer that advice, Gina, because it's so powerful. It's like taking meditation and giving it a power up.
Yeah.
Well,
Because
they
you have,
texted me too. They said, because I sent them the meditation I wanted them to do, and they texted me and said, "Oh my gosh, I went outside and I did this morning, and I loved it." So, hopefully, they're going to continue that. But yeah, no, there's definitely a magic to it, and
totally. And
yeah.
the other thing that people can do in addition to that is meditate like at sunrise or sunset, like 30 minutes before sunrise, 30 minutes after, you kind
Hmm.
of have an hour cushion.
Yep.
Um, and just like meditate, and you're receiving the light energy as well as you're meditating with the earth energy. So you're
Hmm.
getting like a double dose. You're getting the sun energy as well as the earth energy during the meditation.
Maybe that's what I feel, that because I do find that an early morning meditation and then an early evening, kind of when we're settling into the darkness or
Mhm.
settling out of the darkness, I
Mhm.
just find them to be, it feels like a more powerful time. So maybe that's it.
Totally.
Hmm.
Totally. Yeah, because
Wow.
you're getting both the sun and the earth's
Yeah,
frequencies.
that's really nice.
Yeah.
Wow.
Mhm.
So, with regards to the investigations that you do, do you find that it's more common than you think? Because we're going to be interviewing somebody here in our town that lives in a haunted house, and apparently there's a good amount of them in Pittsford, from what I'm understanding.
Little
Mhm.
village.
So
Yeah.
are you regarding to like the frequency in terms of um
Like, how often do you get called very often for these? Is that
Well, more often than because the rise in consciousness is creating this awareness that there's something more to, we're moving from this old paradigm of this is all there is.
Yeah, exactly.
You know, and we're moving into this more open, receptive place of acknowledging life beyond the veil, the physical veil, as well as alien life forms. Like we see it, I mean, 10 years ago, 15 years ago, it was like,
Yeah.
we won't talk about aliens like that. Like you're crazy if you talk about, you know, same
I've
sort of
noticed
thing.
that, and now it's like, you know, you turn on the news and you're like, oh, we think that there's, you know, been a UFO that we saw a spot, you know, everyone's spotting UFOs, and we're talking about it.
Collectively, people are acknowledging it. They're being more open to it. So I would say that the frequency in terms of how often the sightings are hasn't really changed. Maybe a little because of the conscious, like that is sort of a ripple effect. But I think that the reason why they're becoming more frequent is because people are more open to receiving them.
Right. And it's almost like you have to have, as long as there's social acceptance and we're told that it's okay to talk about this, then we'll talk about it. But when, you know, when you're shut down, it's like people are afraid to. And so it's almost like you need this free pass to be able to actually talk about your own truth. I don't need a free pass, but some people do.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah.
That's actually, we talked a little bit before we came on tonight about what this podcast is for. It's really, I was sort of like funneling in. I was telling Gina and Natasha that it's like, what is this for? I mean, it's really a forum to sort of express these things, talk about these things. It's okay to talk about these things. We are these things, you know, we are these things. There's more than just our physical selves. You know, I mean, and to explore, you know, the avenues for healing, you know.
Yes, I think that's so important because people don't know what's out there.
No.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
But I do find, like, while you're talking about people are becoming more conscious, right? And more aware and more maybe tapped in or like open to it, right? To receiving information, whatever you want to call it. At the same time, they're also looking for alternative ways to heal. It just seems like the perfect marriage, right?
100%. Yeah. And we've talked about this, and you know, we've said it like 100 times, even on some of our other podcasts. You know, the clients coming are people who are looking for complete change in their life. You know, they're making, I don't know, it's like they're having these epiphanies, you know, they want to shed some stuff, they feel stuck. And the funny thing is, I do have that handful that is so open to doing the process, but they've never done anything in the realm of energy work, but they're open to it now. They're like, I don't know what this is about, but it's really intriguing and I want to try it. And I love that because, you know, the more that people try it, the more awareness there is. Well, it makes my job easier because, you know, I think 10 years ago, what I did was really shunned. So I'm thankful that people are just way more open to even accepting it as something. And it really does bring about, you know, some amazing changes. You know, people, it does work. It's something that works. So
Totally. And I think that a part of that is people are seeking a better way, you know, like because of where we are in humanity and like, you know, this work, eat, sleep, repeat is just not people aren't feeling fulfilled through that anymore.
No, very few people are fulfilled. With their jobs and their life in general. And it's like, what are we doing? Like, really, when you think about it, what are we doing? The rates of depression are through the roof. People's
Totally.
stress levels, and just unhappiness in general, just not feeling content and fulfilled. And that's just a sad way to have to live. And
Totally. And so they are looking at those alternatives. Like
yeah,
and yeah, they are open to it. They're like, well, I've already tried tried the alternative. So it's like,
yeah.
I'll give this a go and see what happens.
Yeah.
And the thing is, when you're tapped into this, Kolein, you both will know this. Like, everything is at our disposal. Like, we really can lead happy lives. We have to find it. We have to find what we're aligned with, and it is there for us. But you have to do the work to attain it too. Like, people think, energy work is about, you don't come to me once and then all of a sudden you're like a magnet and your life is changing and everything's flowing to you. It's a lot of work, and the healing process is a journey, and it can be a hard one sometimes. You fall down sometimes on your journey, only to learn more lessons. But the
Feel that
healing
more
process,
layered.
yeah, oh yeah,
Yeah.
it's the layers that you have to go through. It's like being on a roller coaster sometimes, and it's not for sissies, I'll tell you that. It can be really, can be tough.
And
Here,
what,
here.
what I found too is that when people are ready, right, for that change,
Mhm.
to seek something alternative, right? I think it happens exponentially faster for them because I think that they're not fighting anything anymore.
Yes.
Totally.
Yeah.
They're not
And
resisting.
the people, right, they're not resisting. And the people who are still in the hamster wheel and they poke out every once in a while, but they jump back in, they're
Mhm.
the one where it's more painful. It's
Yeah.
more, yeah, I mean, I see for humanity, especially sitting with the two of you, like I see such an expansive, beautiful collective healing happening.
Mhm.
And it's probably because I'm connecting with the two of you tonight, but like I feel it I feel it all over me.
Yeah.
And I feel like we talked for a whole hour already and we haven't even like talked
We
17
haven't even scraped the surface.
My gosh, I only have one page of notes. I was taking all these notes. We have to have you back, Natasha.
Oh, we definitely have to have her back for sure. Yeah.
I would love
like
it. I would love it. Yeah. Yeah. I don't want this to end. So thank you so much for having
Oh my
me.
gosh. Thank you so much. It's nice to finally be able to meet you.
Absolutely. You too, Gina. Thank you.
All
It's
right.
been a delight.
You are a wealth of information. You are a beautiful light, my friend. I am always grateful that our paths crossed a few years back. And I feel you energetically. I feel you when we're texting and when we're emailing. And I just love you so much. Thank you for sitting here with us tonight. And we're definitely having you on. There's going to be a part 2.
Oh yeah, no, listen, just count on it. There's going to be a part 2.
Awesome. Well, thank you both so
Oh my
much.
gosh.
I love you, Kolein. Thank you for having me. And just as a reminder, we have a super full moon coming up on Friday. So we're about to enter into the shadow tomorrow.
Say it again. We're entering what?
We're entering the shadow. There's the energies, the building of the energy of the full moon 3 days before. So that would be, Tuesday. And then 3 days after the waning of that super full moon. And it's in Aries. So it's going to be really intense.
Yes.
Ooh, okay.
Just do what you need to ground yourself. Breathe deeply.
Okay.
Know that the transition is just, and we are entering into eclipse season. And I think that an eclipse season intensifies everything too. We have 2 eclipses in October.
Right.
And so, yes, to go with what you were saying, Kolein, yes, we're entering into healing. We're going to have some rough patches.
Yes.
So but it's good. It's
Yeah.
part of that peeling
That's
of the layers, like Gina was talking about.
I'll never forget a few years back, I was listening, this was before 2020 and all of that. And I was listening to a lady on YouTube, and a British lady, and she said, when 2020 starts, we're going to have a big shift. Of course, she had no idea what was going to go on. And she said, and we're going to be in this shift for a very dense 5 years. She's like,
Wow.
very dense. And I was like, oh, so now I know what she means, because isn't this sort of like, trying to get
Everyone keeps saying it's going to level out in 2025. 2025 has always been the magic year. And just so you know, here, I thought I was so, enlightened back in 2020. I was partying like there was no tomorrow on New Year's Eve in 2020, because to me, I'm like, woo, 2020, great things coming.
Totally.
I didn't see that train. But it's okay, because there were many lessons learned too. And I think everybody had their thing. So I'm always going to be grateful for it, and it's okay. So
I look at it this
but I am looking forward to 2025.
I got to know you guys. We're finding each other. And those of you who are listening right now, if this resonates with you, your people are there. Your people are there. Keep being authentic. Keep being who you are. Express who you are. As much as you feel comfortable with, and you'll be a magnet, and you will draw like we've drawn each other to each other, and the beautiful ripple effect that has on our life, because both of these two ladies are my practitioners that I go to. So, I mean, that's win-win, right?
And I've been to Kolein, and amazing. She's and aside from experiencing her, we share clients, and man, you are one of a kind. So whoever gets to have you counsel them or work with them, they're very, very lucky, because you know what you job done. So
Kolein, I just wanted to say Kolein has the most gracious, kindest, compassionate heart for her people, for her clients.
She does.
She really meets you in a place of compassion. She meets you where you're at. There's no judgment whatsoever.
Yep.
She's holding a big, soft, cushiony pillow of compassion for her clients.
Yeah. Oh, she does above and beyond. As far as I'm concerned, in the whole, counseling realm, whether you're a spiritual, she is just her own type of counselor. But if you just take every counselor in here, I think she sets the bar to a level that most can't reach. And I mean that right from my heart.
Totally.
Well, and we can all attest to this, when we are asked to do this, and we are called, and we step into it and we do it, there's no other, you can't do anything else. You can't be anything else. You have to be love. You have to be authenticity. You have to be light. Otherwise, you see, it doesn't even work. So what will be, and so on that note, thank you both. This has been such a lovely time
being with you guys.
And we will be posting this, and we'll let everybody know. We'll put Natasha's information if you want to get in touch with her. She does do remote healing. I highly recommend you connecting and reaching out to her. What you see here, you will get that and more. She is the most lovely, dearest person that I know. So thank you so much.
Thank you so much.
Thank you for joining us, Natasha. It was a great night. I loved hearing about everything you do.
Oh, thank you, sweetheart.
Hey,
you're welcome.
Good to see you. Thanks for joining us on Woo Woo Mommas
Thank you for being with us tonight.